Now, going back to the presentation slide, we can see that within the DB2CC process, there are many threads represented by ellipses as mentioned before. And the main thread happens to be also called DB2CC. This thread spawns other threads, each of which is used for different purposes. For example, DB2IPCCM is used to listen for connections from local client applications. Once a connection request comes in from this local client application, it would spawn or invoke an agent from the idle agent pool, and this agent, called DB2 agent, would take care of handling this application. You can think of an agent as a little worker performing DB2 operations on behalf of the client. A similar situation will happen in the case of a remote client application where a remote listener thread will be checking for connections from remote clients. There will be different listeners depending on the protocol that is being used. For example, for TCP/IP, there is a listener thread called DB2 TCP/CM. Once a listener picks up a request, it will request an agent from the pool to handle this application. Also, depending on what you are doing on the database, other threads may be spawned. For example, at the application level, there is a DB2 agent, which is a coordinator agent for other workers. And that agent may spawn other agents known as sub-agents. And this could happen if, for example, you enable intraparallelism by turning on the parameter intraparallel in the DBM CFG. These would spawn other agents to divide the work. At the database level, you may have other threads that perform other operations. For example, DB2 log GW is related to logging. For prefetching, we have DB2 PFCHR. For deadlock detection, we have DB2 delocked. For page cleaners, to clean the buffer pool, we have DB2 PCLNR, and so on. EDUs stands for Engine Dispatchable Unit, which is basically an agent or thread. Also, per request, you may have other threads. The book Getting Started with DB2XpressC has more information about these threads. On the left side, we see also some rectangles in pink. The DB2WDog or DB2 Watchdog, DB2 VEND, DB2 FMP, and DB2 ACD. These are other processes, not threads, and they are described also in the book. For example, DB2 FMP is useful because it separates the DB2 engine code and address space from other code used for stored procedures and user-defined functions. If the stored procedure or a user-defined function were running on the same address space as the DB2 engine, and if they were incorrectly coded, then they could bring DB2 down. So that's why it's important to have them running on a separate, using a separate process, which is DB2 FMP. Moving on to the next slide, we will talk briefly about connection concentrator. In the past, for every connection to a database, a DB2 agent had to be allocated to handle this connection. So for example, if you had 1,000 connections to a database, this would imply that 1,000 DB2 agents had to be spawned. Each agent can take between 1 meg to 5 meg of memory, so the more agents, the more memory is consumed on the server. Therefore, connection concentrator was created so that many connections could be handled by one agent. Connection concentrator is enabled when the DBM CFG parameter max_connections is greater than max_cord agents. So for example, if max connections is set to 1000 and max cord agents is set to 200, then each coordinator agent would handle 5 connections, which is 1000 divided by 200. This concludes this presentation. Thank you for watching. To learn more, visit db2university.com.